Welcome, and in this video we've got Tony Spandrio, a friend of mine who's been doing deals for dozens of years. He's done all sorts of different things, and he's going to be discussing something called lien waivers, making sure that you are doing the proper due diligence on your lien waivers when you're closing on a property. So without further ado, let's get right into the video.
How's everybody doing today? Doing good? Enjoying the food? Thank you, Adam, for allowing me to come in here today and share my wisdom. I've been at this for quite a bit of time, and just to go through who I am, I've been investing since March of 2010. It started off that my wife drugged me down to a Rich Dad 2-hour little intro, which wound up then turning into a 3-day event, which wound up then, of course, saying, wow, this is great, this is fantastic, I really want to be a part of this. So we joined the organization, and in 2012, we were inducted into Robert Kiyosaki's International Hall of Fame. So his organization, what they do is that every year, out of about 2,000 to 3,000 students, they would select 4. And the criteria is really, really difficult to meet in what you have to do. Well, we did that in a short 2 years, that we met their criteria, inducted into his International Hall of Fame in 2012. 2015, they asked me to be a part of the organization, actually doing coaching and mentoring. Started off being phone coaching, and then it turned out to be mentoring. Is there any Fortune Builder students in here? Okay. So I'm also a Fortune Builders Mastery student. Now, I don't coach or teach with them, but there's a little difference between the two organizations. In Rich Dad, and which turned over to be Elite Legacy, what we had to do as a mentors, we went to where you were at. I'd go to Fargo, North Dakota. I'd go down now to Atlanta, Georgia. I'd go to Tampa, Florida. I was down in Dallas, Texas. I'd be out in California. We actually went to the market where the student was at for 3 days, teaching them how to invest, getting them off of their butts, and getting them to take action to do things. And nothing against Fortune Builders, because I love Fortune Builders. They're a little different. They'll give you your education over the phone. So I may be here in Colorado trying to teach you how to invest in Charlotte, North Carolina. So there's a big difference there. But what it is, it gave me an advantage that I'm out across the marketplace really getting to understand the markets just throughout the United States. We've done over 40 flips here in Colorado. In 2011 is really when we took it off. I had my coach and mentor come out the last week of December of 2010, and by the second week in January, flips in the second week without a dime out of my pocket. And that's how quickly we got immersed into it. From there, 2011, 12, 13, and 14, we had about 8 flips going at all times, doing about 12 to 14 a year. Our model was that for every 3 flips that we would do, we would buy a rental, and we would leverage the rental. So we started growing our rental portfolio in 2012. If a lot of you were here earlier at an event a couple weeks back when Anthony Char and Mike Cran, and there's a few other people, well, Mike Cran is also a business partner with me, and so we invested in an apartment complex in northern Colorado in Greeley, and we also invested in an apartment complex out in Omaha, Nebraska. So I got a lot of experience there. 2015, I started expanding and going into single-family homes, picked up single-family homes in Omaha, in Atlanta, and Tulsa, and now we've really settled in Tulsa. So I've created a turnkey business called Oklahoma Portfolio Partners, but on top of that, I also own 35 single-family homes, myself and some other investors. So we have 35 single-family homes that we own, and this year, right now, we're targeted that we'll turn 12 houses during this year as turnkey properties to offer out to investors. In that turnkey operation, we have a third-party property management company that's a national property management company that works with us, and we provide funding through local banks and also insurance companies. So that's a little bit about, like I say, we're in Georgia, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and obviously here in Colorado, and then a Fortune Builders Mastery student. So let's get into what we're going to talk about today, and that's going to be contractors' contracts and lien waivers. But before I jump into the contractor contracts, I think there's an important part that we've all got to just start with, and that is, well, before I write a contractor's contract, I've got to hire GCs or subcontractors, right? So we're going to touch a little bit on that and my experience with that and share that. And the other one thing I want to talk about real quick before I get too far along the line is be attentive in listening to what I have to say today. I've written a book. It's called Cash Flow Essentials. It does really focus on single-family homes and apartments. And if you're attentive to what I've talked about today, then I'm going to give away this book. I have it for sale on Amazon, $19.95. I brought some with me today for $10. You can buy them from me today for $10. But I'm going to give one away today. But like I say, be attentive to what I talk about because I'll quiz, and the person that has the right answer can have that book. So moving on, not only hiring the GCs, that before you can even get into your contracts and whatnot, you're going to have a pretty darn detailed scope of work. And this just comes from experience, guys. I've been down this road so many times, and we'll get into some really live stories here, things that have happened to me in regards to lawsuits and lien waivers and whatnot. Change orders, understanding what to do with change orders. Again, all this stuff is leading up to putting together the right contractor's contract so that you're covered. It's going to be really, really important. Okay? We're going to go over the contracts for GCs and subs. And I want to give you kind of a high-level overview of what that contract should look like and what it should contain. And again, this is just kind of, on the surface, 3,000 feet. I've only got a short amount of time. I can't be here all day to teach it. So we're going to get through it pretty quick. Last is lien waivers. We're going to cover lien waivers. Now, guys, I am not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I don't have any 3 special letters after the end of my name. I'm just a hard knocks investor, started in 2010, started like you guys, and just got out there and hit the road and done it. And again, I really, really enjoy sharing this. So I like to make this a little interactive. So where do you find your GCs or subcontractors? But there's one thing that I want to tell you, and this comes from my experience, is that how do you know this person's doing the job that they say that they're going to do? What are you going to do? Okay? So my recommendation is that if, and please don't take offense, I'm sorry, your name was? Daryl came to me and he says, hey, you know what? I've got this business. I'm really interested in helping you out, Tony. Here's what I do. My first question is hey, Daryl, great. Do you have anything currently that you're working on that I could come and take a look at? Awesome. That's what the answer is I want to hear. So you've got stuff that's out there that you're currently working on. You're working it on yourself with another investor, and you can allow me to come in and see the work that you're doing. Awesome. Okay? That's really important. Don't go by pictures. Somebody's going to show you lots of pictures, and that's great. Because if you're working for somebody that's finishing and doing finishing work, pictures ain't going to show the detail of the finishing work. It's hard. You get a tile person that's doing tile for you. How do you know that he's putting in the 3/16 grout lines that's supposed to be in there? And how consistent is it? And how straight is it? So it's really important that you vet the individuals. Okay, whether it's you're dealing directly with the GCs or you're dealing with subs, I'm going to tell you, I think it's really, really important. You can get referrals from other investors. So you may want to ask that sub or the general and just say, so what other investors have you worked with? Can I have their names? Can I talk to them? I know many times that I wish I would have done that. And there was many times that I have done that to find out that, nope, I don't want to go there. This doesn't sound like the person that I want to work with. So it's going to be really, really important to get in some of the things that we want to make certain of. So Daryl, and I don't mean to be picking on you because you're the only contract here. Are you licensed? Awesome. Fantastic. That's very important. Okay. Are you insured? Okay. And do you carry liability and workman's comp insurance? Very good. Very good point in what he's saying. He doesn't have any employees. Okay. So let's say we hired Daryl, but then I needed an electrician. He didn't have anybody, and I came out and brought in an electrician separately from him. Am I going to ask the electrician the same questions? Absolutely. What if this electrician has another worker working for him? And what if the electrician's not carrying workman's comp and that other worker gets hurt? Who's going to be responsible for that injury? Okay? It's going to be you. So you've got to really check this stuff out really, really closely. We haven't even gotten into lien waivers and how this works. Okay? So, liability, workman's comp. I typically want to see that the individuals have a liability coverage of at least $1 million. Okay? The other thing is that, and we're going to kind of talk about this a little bit more when we get into the contract aspect of things, is that I want to make certain that his carrier has me showing me of his liability coverage. And oh, by the way, I want to make certain that my property and myself are part of that coverage. Okay? In case anything goes wrong. All right? Obviously, if they're a part of the BBB, that would be nice. Hopefully that, they've got a little reputability through the BBB. And then we've got checking the references. We kind of talked about that. And getting a hold of other investors and asking for references. Okay? Visiting the job sites. Like I said earlier, I think it's important to get out there and visit to see the quality of the work we do. And last is that, how long have you been in the industry, Daryl? 25 years. Okay? So that's pretty impressive. If I was looking at needing somebody to come in and give me a bid on something already, for me, just in this conversation, Daryl's answered the questions that I'm looking for just on the surface to get started. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and take a moment. We're going to get into scope of work. How many of you have written a scope of work for any project that you're working on? Okay, awesome. That's fantastic. Would you consider it a pretty detailed scope of work? All right, so let's go ahead and say, I want to take a look at, I want to go through on developing a scope of work. Now, what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm giving you just the idea. Again, this is high level. I can't get into the detail that says, oh, well, gee, what are we talking about? But I literally start off with my checklist that says, from an exterior standpoint of the property that I'm looking at. And please keep in mind, this isn't necessarily a single-family home. This can be apartments. This absolutely can be apartment complexes as well as single-family homes. Let's start off with the exterior and let's start with the roof. And what you need to do is you got to get in and define, what are we doing? And even if you're hiring a roofing contractor, you want to be very clear to know, what's the expectations? How many layers are they tearing off? What about the sheeting? And how is the sheeting going to get replaced? What kind of underlayment are they going to put? What kind of ice barrier are they possibly going to put? What type of shingle are they going to put on? What's the warranty going to be on that shingle? What's the workmanship going to be? Okay? You can really get into it. So every one of these items, from an exterior standpoint, there's going to even be a few here that you can probably even think of to even add. We're talking about sidings and windows and the landscaping, the gutters, okay, painting, the exterior painting, garages, decks, fences, pools. So again, this is a list. Now, by the way, this slide presentation, guys, is going to be available to you when you're done here. Adam will be able to send out the slide presentation to you. Okay. So we have all these items that are going to be part of your scope of work, and you're going to get very detailed about it, much like what Suzanne was talking about. On the interior side, you've got your painting, and I can tell you, even with my painting contractors, it's very specific in what the walls are going to be, what the base is going to be, what the case is going to be, what my doors are going to be, what the ceilings are going to be I want them to use, and what the color is that I want them to use. Are they going to need to put primer underneath? Okay? So it's going to be very, very detailed in what I'm wanting to do. So again, when we're looking at the interior, we're looking at hardwood floors, carpet, vinyl, tiling, kitchen, appliances, bathroom, bedrooms, framing, insulation, walls, doors, trims, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and foundation. Okay? So every one of these items you've got to drill into in that scope of work. And pretty soon you're going to have yourself a 3, 4, 5, 6-page scope of work. But I'm telling you, is the minute you walk in and Daryl didn't do something that you wanted him to do, and in your mind you wanted it done, he can easily say, I'm sorry, I don't see it here. That's not part of the cost that I had figured in this job. Okay? So it's really, really important to be very detailed with this. So here's how detailed that I get. And we're just using this example as interior trim, okay? So interior doors will be a painted masonite hollow core door with satin nickel hinges and hardware, okay? Painted jambs are going to be cased with 2¼ inch casing. The base trim will be 2¼ inch painted base. Windows will be wrapped on 3 sides with sheetrock, and the window still skirt of 2¼ inch casing. Okay? I'm just giving you a short example. That's the detail that you really need to have. And I know that maybe we all get lackadaisy. Hey, I've been working with Daryl he's done 6 houses of mine, and I've just gotten pretty easy going with him, and I've missed something. So be consistent when you're doing this, time after time after time. Okay? All right, let's talk a little bit about change orders and when to use a change order. So after the scope of work has been signed and approved, anything beyond that needs to be a change order. So even though Daryl and I agreed that you're right, I didn't spell this out, but we've already got a contract in place. He already has a set agreement and how much we're charging and how much he's going to get paid for doing this. I've made this change. I need to provide a change order to him. Now, this change order is going to come along with the fact is that I got cost and material that's going to be part of this change order. Obviously, he's going to say, well, geez, Tony, this is going to take me 2 more days. Okay, I think it's important that I need to do an extension to the date that I'm expecting him to get this done. We'll go over this in the contract, okay? Or, all of a sudden, I hear from Daryl that, the electrician that I was going to have, XYZ, well, I'm replacing him with ABC now. Okay? Well, I need to know that. I need to understand that up front. Have I even vetted this other electrician that you're talking about? That needs to be a change order. So I know that, maybe I'm very, anal. I'm very, my business partner, Mike's the analytical one, and I'm the one who's more like the person who's out raising money and finding deals and dealing with this stuff. But I like to be very detailed at what we're doing. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump in. So we got our contractor, we vetted them, we've understood what we're doing there, we've figured out change orders and how important this is going to be. So again, I'm going over what a contractor's contract looks like. Now guys, you're in the state of Colorado, you need to go out and you need to use a real estate attorney to develop the right contract. Okay, it's not something that's boilerplate. There's too many things in here that you're going to need to look at to create the right one. I've got one, but I can't give it to you because it's my real estate attorney that has approved that. Same thing with my lien waivers. If I jump into another state, I got to have the real estate attorney in that state draw that up because there's just enough variances state to state to state that you've got to have that done. And I tell you what, it's going to be the best $200, $300, $400 that you could invest by putting together a contractor's contract and lien waivers that's going to prevent just a lot of hassles for you. So we're just going to go over the basics. This is the basics of a contract that you need to make certain. Obviously, you got the date that you're going to start. You got yourself as the owner's name. Now, God forbid that none of you guys are doing any of this work in your own name. I hope you're all using LLCs at least or an S-Corp to flip a house in. The contractor's name, and that could be an individual, or it could be the fact that they're an S-Corp or an LLC, okay? And, of course, the location of the property. So this, again, this is pretty basic, and we get that. I understand. Parties to the agreement. You need to spell out the owner, the owner, agents, and assigns. Now, I've got a project manager that works for me. Well, I want Gerald to know in this contract that it may be Investments LLC, but I also have Zach Bashaw, who is my project coordinator. I want to be able to spell this out so that we know and he knows who to expect is going to be coming in to help make decisions. Okay? Same thing with the contractor. We want to know who the contractor is, the subcontractor is, employees of the subcontractor, and any agents, or if he decides to assign it to somebody else to do some of the work for him. So we want to be clear in understanding who's all involved in the work that we're doing. All right, the scope of work, we've talked about that. Okay? It clarifies who is to supply the material, the labor, and the completion of the work. And you're going to note that, which is already in the detailed scope of work, that's going to be attached to it. So it's just like, we closed on a house on Monday in Tulsa when I was in Tulsa on Monday, and I just got my general contractor there to sign the work. So he got a 4-page contractor's contract, and then he got another 6 pages of the scope of work that was all attached. Everything is signed, everything is dated, and everything's initialed. Okay, so everything is complete. We all know what we need to do. All right, changes in the scope of work. Now, this is part of the contract. You want to spell out that it's agreed that the owner, from time to time, could add or delete from the scope of work. All changes must be in writing. Okay, change orders must show a correct cost and completion date before the work starts. I know it's tough to get out there because you want to get your job done, you want to get your project done, you want them to go ahead and get started. I'll get that change order over to you, and then you forget. Open up a can of worms down the road when you're ready to pay him and you don't have documentation. Okay? All right. Initiation of work and time for completion. This goes back to your start date. You want to spell out when the work is going to commence. Now, the contract may be today, maybe, March 8th, 2018, that is the contract date, but he's going to physically start the work on March 10th. Okay? But what's his completion date? We want to know what his completion date's going to be. We want him to give us the best guess estimate that he can on when that completion date's going to be, how many days. Is he working Monday through Friday? Is he just working business days, or is he working calendar days? You need to understand this so you have a good clarification, because when you put that house on the market, if you don't know when he's going to be done, you're not going to know that. Okay? Now, we're going to be fair. We're going to be fair to Daryl and say, yep, you know what, Daryl? Man, we just got hit with a snowstorm. Here we are, March. We didn't think it was going to be, and it came through, dumped 2 feet of snow. And yet, he's out here thinking that, he's supposed to get this done, in 2 months. And Daryl is easily going to come back to us and say, man, I can't work. For the work I need, I can't work. I need to add an extra 10 days. So you got to be considerate of that. You really do. Now, failure to complete results in a penalty. So what do I mean by that? Well, we all know that we have our holding cost. Our holding cost per day could vary. It could be $50 a day. It could be $250 a day. So I build into my contracts that basically say, for every day that you do not complete it on the date that we've agreed upon, I'll penalize you X amount of dollars. I'm holding them to his word. I'm being professional. I want them to be professional. But we're also going to acknowledge, if we have a delay, we're going to communicate, and we're going to extend it. So we had a bad snowstorm. We extended it 10 days. We all agreed that would be good. Okay? But I'm going to watch for that, because I have done this, guys. I mean, here in Colorado and in Tulsa, as little as $1,500 up to one guy here in Colorado, which was $5,000. He knew it in advance. I kept telling him, you're going past the completion date. I'll hurry up. He kept going past his completion date. We got done. He got docked $5,000 off of it. Everything I flip, I break it down. I know. In fact, as I'm working on my houses, I have my rule of thumb. My rule of thumb is, not to stray from what we were talking about but my rule of thumb is that I better be hitting $7,500 a week in rehab work. If I'm doing less than that, then I'm not doing a good enough job in getting this product turned. Then from there, I break it down into what is my holding cost per day. And my holding cost basically is that I had to borrow money, right? I've got my points, my interest. I got my builder's risk insurance. I got my utility cost. That's my holding cost. That's what I figured out to. Okay? Now, on the flip side of this, I don't want to get in any trouble with any kind of a lawsuit or anything saying that this is unfair. Daryl gets the job done 10 days early. Completed it 10 days early, I'm going to give you $1,000 for getting it done early. So I want to work with my guys to help me out here and to do this. So I want to be fair both ways. Obviously, the contract amount the agreement to pay the contractor for his performance. Now you want to know how much is the payment's going to be per month or per draw, and your progress of payments, because I have a set amount from him now that I'm working with. Well, what does that look like? Once the first 30% is completed, you're going to get 30% of what we agreed upon. Once the second 30% has been done and you're 60% done, I'm going to give you the second 30%. And then the third 30% for 90% being completed, then we'll do a punch list, and then at the end. Now, guys, in the beginning, probably like any of you, I was kind and say, oh, you need something to get started with? Sure, here's something. Here's a little bit to get started with, okay? Most of my contractors that I work with now, they are perfectly fine that they'll get the 30% when 30% is done. Now, I create a really, really cool Excel spreadsheet that has everything that the scope of work talked about, which is an itemized bid that I got from Daryl, but then I throw a column in here going, okay, you think that you're ready to have 30% of your work paid to you. I'll go by down each line item, and I'll say, okay, well, 50% of this item is done, and it looks like you got 20% of this done, and in the total, by gosh, he's at 33%, 35%, great, I'll cut you a check. The next time we come back and he's wanting his draw, I'll come back and I'll look at the completion for every one of those items, okay? And which will go along with the lien waivers that we'll talk about here in a bit. So he gets a copy of that as we're going. So again, this is spelled out in the contract. Liability and insurance. Okay, contractor agrees to identify and hold harmless. He must show that he's got current coverage. Okay, and that he's also identifying that you and the property are part of that insurance coverage. We talked about that a little bit ago. You want to make certain that his provider is providing you with a copy of that certified liability coverage. Okay. Workman's contract. The contract shall maintain workers' comp for his employees, subcontractors, and agents. Okay? Also, we talked about that before, right? You don't want to be bringing in somebody that has some other worker that's working for him, and he's not covered under workman's comp, and that person gets hurt. Okay? I mean, I working on a deal where even I had a family member. Partner had a family member come in and work on it. He cuts his finger and he's running them to the urgent care to get it taken care of. And he said, well, we have insurance for this, don't we, Tony? Well, no, because we opened up an LLC just to do this deal, but we didn't take this LLC and go get insurance policy for it. Now I have insurance coverage for all my employees that work for me at my business and on site where I'm working at, so I have coverage for them, but not for this person. He says, well, what is he supposed to do? I says, well, he was an independent contractor. He needs to have his own coverage. He came here to work on his own. But it puts us at a liability stake. So be very careful, even when you start getting family members involved. You never know when an accident's going to happen. So be very careful. All right, taxes. You want to make sure this is spelled out in your contract. That contractor is solely responsible for sales tax, excise tax, Social Security benefits, and employment compensation taxes. Okay? All right, moving on. Inspections and cleanups. You want to spell out that the contractor will be the one responsible for calling the building inspectors. Now, that is if Daryl pulls the permit, and Daryl is listed on the permit. But if you are running down to the city to pull the permits for Daryl to work under, even though he's noted as the contractor, now you're responsible for calling to making certain that the permits are being cut, but the call for inspections are being done, and you're going to be there when they come there, or you've worked that out with your contractor that he's going to be there. Okay. Contractors will be responsible for cleaning up on the job site on a daily basis. I think, Carl, you had something that you mentioned yesterday. So yeah, you didn't know how I saw you sitting here. What was that term you said the other day about sweeping? What was it called?
Broom swept every day.
Broom swept every day. Okay? So I think it's important. You want a nice, tidy, job site. You want to make certain it's clean. I got this tile in Florida that works for me. I've never seen somebody so meticulous in all my life, because every day when he's done, his site is clean, and you go over to where his tools are at, his tools are sitting there, and they're just perfectly lined up in order. Absolutely phenomenal. The guy does an absolutely phenomenal job. Okay? And I love people like that. All right, warranty. What time period are you wanting your contractor to repair at his own cost and expense from the date of completion. Most of my time is 1 year. I ask them to warrant their stuff 1 year. Now, I may have property that I've listed with a real estate agent, and I may put a blue ribbon policy on that, so it does help cover some of that stuff. But by all means, you want something in the contract, again, just to keep them straight, that they're willing to warrant the work that they're doing. I think that's important, okay? Now, assignment. We all like to assign contracts, right? If we're wholesalers, we all want to try to assign contracts. Do you think it's a good idea to allow your contractor to assign this contract? Okay? No. So the party needs to agree that this contract shall not be assigned, conveyed, transferred, or in any way, alienated without prior written consent. Now, if you want to, yes, you can consent to it. But again, you want that to be part of your contract, okay? Mediation. A clear understanding must be written on how to negotiate any claims or controversy arising the agreement. Arbitration. You got to have a clause in there about arbitration. I don't have it listed here. But again, this is how detailed this contract needs to be, okay? Lien waivers. All right. Who in here received, now not you being the person who gave it, but who has received a statement of lien? Anybody ever receive a statement of lien? Wow, you guys are lucky. I get to tell a nice horror story because I'm the recipient of a statement of lien. So I did a Zoom work down in Colorado Springs, working with an investor, and he was a contractor, and I mean, boy, we were on our 7th house. Things were going really good. Except, wow, it seemed to be strange that a lot of the work started to get done in the evenings and on weekends. And it was kind of weird, kind of strange, and I thought, well, gee, and this house was damaged in a fire. Got an awesome deal on it. But the fire never hit the concrete. We were good. Concrete was intact. So he went out and he rented some heavy equipment. Came in and we scraped the house down to the concrete. Got the permits. Got everything done right through the Pikes Peak Regional Building Department. Started building everything back. I gave him $40,000 up front. This is when I was naive about the whole issue about giving people money up front, right? But hey, I mean, my goodness, after 7 deals, things were going good. I got complacent, no problem. Give him $40,000. I'm down there one day and it's like, so why aren't we getting the sheeting on the roof? Oh, it's just too windy. And well, that's strange because I drove around, the neighborhood and other work sites, and these guys are putting up sheeting. So I thought, something strange going on here. And so I went down there, and he finally had the sheeting on, and I was asking more questions, going, I don't think that header over that window looks right. So I gave him a check for $10,000 more to get more work done. And I'm driving home, and my wife calls me up. She says, hey, honey, we just got a statement of lien, and it's from the rental company. She says, apparently your contractor never paid the rental company for the heavy equipment of about $3,800. So I got on the phone with the guy, and I said, hey, we have a problem. I said, first off, you can't cash that check for $10,000, and I'll be back down tomorrow to talk to you about this issue. So I met him at Starbucks, and long story short, it was that he says, great. He says, I'm done. I walk off the job. He up and walks off the job. So obviously, that I caught him, and the fact is that, he did that. So immediately, that same day, I went right down to Pikes Peak Regional Building Department, and I said, I'm turning this guy in. This is not right at all. He did it to 3 other investors. And I'm going, wow. So now what do I do? So here I am, and I'm just going, I got a house that's halfway uncompleted. What do I do? Well, I talked to one of the gentlemen there in the building department, and I said, I said, I need a contractor. Is there any way that you might know somebody that I could use their Class A contractor's license and maybe be able to hire subs? Because I got to get through this project as inexpensively as I can. They did. For $1,000, gentleman had a Class A, and he had his subs, and we came in there. We were able to get the project done. Thing was that it was $60,000 out of my pocket to come back, fix all the problems, and get it done. The next thing was that great. Now how do I handle the statement of lien? Because guess what I just received was a subpoena to show up in court for a $300,000 lawsuit. It's like, great, this rental company pulled everybody in. I had private money lending on this house. I'm this guy going, oh my gosh. And I'm contacting him to figure out, what am I going to do? It's like, I'm in the middle of all this stuff. We'd gotten the house done. I was ready to actually, we had a buyer for it, but I got this statement of lien hanging over my head. So my attorney says, well, here's what you're going to do. First thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to pay off that statement of lien. Even though it was his responsibility, you're going to go ahead and you're going to pay off that statement of lien. You're going to get the house sold. Great. Awesome. And I said, and he said, well, how do you have this thing set up as far as entity set up and whatnot? And I said, well, I have it in an LLC. And he says, great. He says, do you own any other property in that LLC? And I said, no. And he says, well, how much cash do you have in the bank? And I said, well, after I pay your fee, I'll have $50 left over. He goes, okay, good. And he says, you're fine. It's like, I'm fine. I said, I got a subpoena. I says, in 30 days, I got to go show up at court, and there's going to be a $300,000 lawsuit there. What am I going to do? He says, nothing. He says, you don't show up. Well, what? I don't show up? Something I'm supposed to go to court for? No, he says, what are they going to do? He says, you got $50 in the bank. He says, they can't come after you. There's nothing that they can do. So, with everything that I learned about setting up entity structures, and what I did was absolutely a blessing. And so it was a huge help in order to have all of this education and all of this attorneys to realize that, wow, you know what? I was covered. And then on top of it, this contractor investor guy says, well, you still owe me $40,000. He says, and I'm going to file on you. It's just like, okay, go ahead. I mean, I'll have my attorney. I'll work on taking care of it. So let's moving on. That's just kind of a story about what can happen. But what is a statement of lien? A statement of lien is attached to this notice when the noticing party claims a mechanics lien. So we all know what the mechanics lien is. Any services above, okay? And it's described and performed on a specific project and property. So that's very detailed. So when you ever get one of those, that's what to expect in that, plus a dollar amount that they're wanting that you never did pay them when you agreed to pay them. Okay? Now, how does a statement of lien work? The claimant, except for laborers who did not contribute any supplies to the job, has to file a statement of lien no later than 4 months after the final either the labor or supplies were contributed. Well, this gentleman that said he's going to come after me, I just kept waiting and going, well, I know when the last time he worked on that house. And by the time we were discussing it, it was just like, he can't even file on me. It was already past the 4 months. Okay? They got 4 months in order to do that. Now, for laborers who did not contribute supplies, a lien must be filed no later than 2 months after the last work day of that project. Okay, that is state of Colorado guidelines as far as them wanting to file a mechanics lien that a lot of us have heard of or statement of liens on. Okay, how do you prevent a lien? Well, it's pretty obvious. They've done the work, pay them, right? Another way you prevent the lien is with an interim lien waiver. Okay, so you got two types of lien waivers. Again, you need this drawn up with your attorneys. You have an interim lien waiver and you have a final lien waiver. So Daryl and I agreed on a part. He's at 30%, and let's say that, hey, you know what? He wants $10,000. That's good. The interim lien waiver is going to spell out that basically here it is for the interim work that you've done, Daryl. Here's $10,000 given to you with this check number for the work that you've performed, which is an attachment because I have a worksheet that says here's how much I'm paying you, and here's the percentage of work that you've done, and that's an interim lien waiver. Final lien waiver is he's all done, and that last final lien waiver spells out this is it. This is final. I'm now giving you your last $10,000 for $50,000 of the work that has been done, and you have now received all your checks. We're done. Now, if he's not available to sign it, I'm going to make certain that if I've given it to him via email or mail it to him and whatnot, I'm going to require that he has it notarized when he signs it to get it back to me. I need to know he's the one that signed it. If it's in person, I'll have him sign it to me in person. Okay? Now, there is one other thing that you can do, but I just don't recommend it. There's a lot of people, and they used to do this, and I think yesterday I heard that this was now kind of abandoned, and you can't do this in Colorado anymore, was an endorsement on the check. So this endorsement that you can have as a stamp, that once they sign it, they pretty much now have agreed that, oh yeah, they've been paid. But my issue with that is that, well, what did you do? I just gave you a check for $10,000. Now you and I can dispute what was that for. Okay, because I have no way of knowing that. With a single page interim lien waiver or final lien waiver with an attachment that you have signed, if I have to go to court about this, and I've given you a copy and I've got a copy, then I'm very detailed in knowing what did this cover. Okay? So I think that that's really important. Okay? All right. I know that Heath Phillips, he comes to these meetings a lot. And actually, him and his wife, they invest in apartments with us. And I just want to reach out, to everybody saying that, again, always go out and vet the people that you're working, with, and that you hire. Keith has a great piece out there about lien waivers that's on LinkedIn right now. If you go out and look up Heath, he's got a good article out there also. I asked him if I could share his information, and the fact that he has a good article out there about it. He's a business attorney and a fellow investor too. So definitely take a look into him. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up. But before I wrap it up, again, putting it all together, we talked about hiring GCs and subs. Okay, we talked about scope of work and how detailed the scope of works need to be. We talked about change orders and how important that you need to do your change orders throughout the process. Okay, contracts for subs and GCs and subs. Okay, and then lien waivers and statement of liens. So again, this is something that I really enjoy sharing, even though I'm a coach and a mentor. And I do get paid for a lot of the stuff that I help students with. But I've told Adam this before. This is the stuff that really excites me. I love to share this stuff that I've been through. That has really been helpful to me, and maybe that will help you not have a $60,000 oops. That you got to reach into your hip pocket to pay for. I've got business cards here. Here's also my contact information that you can reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Feel free to reach out to me if you have some questions. And, reach out to me if you have any other questions. Like I say, I do offer some coaching and mentoring additionally. And I appreciate everybody being here, being attentive. Great questions. Adam, thank you very much for having me today. Again, I really, really appreciate it. So, thanks, everybody.